From August 27th, 2012 through February the 23rd, 2014, the transiting North Node moved through Scorpio, and that means that the transiting South Node moved through Taurus. And so these nodes were very, very significant at that time, especially because Saturn was in Scorpio. And at one point it conjuncted the North Node in Scorpio, which is where the world was meant to be going at that time. And right now, the North Node is in Taurus, and so I think it's really, really interesting to look at the opposition to this current nodal transit. This has been something I've been very curious about, both this placement in a person's natal chart and also what it means collectively. And so, polarities of different zodiac signs overlap within one to the other. They intertwine. And so I wanted to share with you some knowledge about what this meant at that time, in that time frame that I listed at the beginning of this audio recording video. So if you type in North Node in Scorpio in 2013, for instance, when I was experiencing my what's known as what I call a nodal opposition, or reverse or cross nodal return. So I have natally, I have the North Node in Taurus, South Node Scorpio. And so these nodes are reversed. And so it may have been in the summertime of that year, spring, summer, somewhere around there, of 2013, when I may have had my cross nodal return. And so what do I remember in that summertime for me personally? When I was about 9 years old, is that I was sick in that summer. I had a little bit of a cold. I was kind of coughing. And how does that have to do with the North Node Scorpio? I don't know. I just thought that I'd bring that in. Maybe that requires you, maybe you need to get sick to be able to confront shadows or some type of thing. But that summer, I took a camping trip to Kentucky. Now, the past summer, 2012, I took a camping trip to Colorado. This summer, it was in Kentucky. And what I remember is being in the woods. We were camping in a cabin. We walked down the caves. We also went on a beautiful nature trail and also looked at the history of Kentucky as well. And not only that, but what do we do? I remember this, I have a video of this. I was walking down the pier when we were stopping at the town where Mark Twain, I think it was Mark Twain's birthplace, or where Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, where at the setting of those books, or one of those books. But so I was walking on the dock, and then all of a sudden I just heard music just playing out of the blue, and I just thought it was the most annoying, unexpected thing, because I wanted to figure out where it was coming from. So, what I remember is getting annoyed, upset, and so that was just some faint memories that I have. But, so another thing I remember earlier into the transit in the fall of 2012 was I was in a relationship with a teacher that I didn't really get along with. And, there was something about her tone that because I was very sensitive to words, and so I guess, maybe if you have your moon in an air sign like I do, maybe you're more sensitive to words and language and what people mean when they're saying, who knows. But so I was very uncomfortable, very nervous, and very upset and really drained, with her at the time. And how does that have to do with the North Node Scorpio? It's kind of funny because if you have a certain placement, and I'm just gathering stuff up from what I know and memories of that time, is it more comfortable or is it really, more uncomfortable when you have a current nodal placement and then the transiting North Node, South Node is opposite that? So I guess at some points, especially when it conjuncted my South Node, North Node degree, it might have been a dark night of the soul. It might have been a time for a lot of releasing, although I can't really, gather exactly how it was because it was years ago. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 9 years ago. 9, 10, 8 years ago. 8 to 10 years ago. With it just ending at the beginning of 2014. So, getting into the information of this, one of the things I think about with this placement is the tomb, and that sounds very Scorpio because it does have to do with the underworld and death and all those things. Tomb of possessions, where you're burying all your possessions that you're coming in with. Because the South Node is karma, it's what you're bringing forth into this lifetime. And it was in Taurus, it does have to do with material things and developing stability and self-sufficiency, looking after yourself, and managing a household, land, anything rooted in the earth. And where it can get to the dark side is if that energy is overdeveloped, that the meaning and the deeper, more delicious, more profound sides of life, which is, can look at Scorpio, tends to be ignored, of where we feel empty. And so diving deep was really the invitation at that time, and is at this time, because we need to get into the shadow realms to be able to transform in order to be the phoenix rising out of the ashes and then to find inner peace and groundedness, stability, and being centered, which is Taurus, and appreciating the plant that I see in front of me, appreciating the birds that sing, my roof over your head, dinner, all those simple pleasures of life, and really simplifying your life. So these nodes really overlap. And I happen to know several people with their natal South Node Taurus, North Node Scorpio. One of those people I know personally, the others are, two of them are astrologers I have listed on my astrology channel list. The invitation, according to Google, this is what it says. It says, purify our emotional world. With the North Node in Scorpio, our path is to purify our emotional world. And, another thing I just want to say as well is that the nodes transited that North Node point more than it did the South Node point, because it started in August 2012. The Sun passed through, meeting up with the North Node, I believe, maybe early to mid-degree Scorpio, which was the North Node 2012, and then 2013 it crossed over the South Node in the spring of that year. Fast forward to the fall, and then it crossed over that North Node point again. So, moving into the North Node, clearing up old baggage, old patterns that don't serve us, that didn't serve us, the Sun transiting the South Node, and then moving once again on a boat into the Northern Star, to Scorpio. And I think if you're packing your luggages, to downsize, to clear stuff out that you don't need. Because all those possessions you can't carry. And so that was a wonderful time to clear out your space, declutter. What do you no longer need? Cleansing, purifying, nourishment. If you were practicing Buddhism, Hinduism, all those religions, talk about a wonderful time to do this. And if you happen to have this placement, South Node Taurus, North Node Scorpio, and you say, I've come in as a Buddhist, you've evolved. Because the Buddha was born under the full moon of Taurus and Scorpio. All suffering comes from attachment. You attach from emotional stuff, material stuff. Desire is the root of all suffering. And how do you come out? Allowing for the process of letting go and transformation. That's huge when it comes to Scorpio. It's very, very complex. Life isn't black and white. There's layers in that onion peel. And at that time, it was the direction that we needed to head. At this time, this is what we need to shed. So it's important, but in the opposite way, in a different way this time. So let me continue. So our path is to purify our emotional world. Where we're suppressing stuff, resisting stuff. Now confront it, now face it, now sit with it. No matter the position of other planets in our natal chart, the Southern Node in Taurus conditions us to unconsciously reject everything that means emotional, relationship. Taurus is an earth sign, and it does have to do with boundaries, and Scorpio is really about exchanging energies, being attuned to how somebody's feeling and sitting with them in their pain of going there and having the profound conversations about taboo, dark topics. So therapy, wonderful to have at that time. It is not that Taurus rejects all kinds of relationships. It is sensual, and all of those things, but it is an earth sign, and it is not a water sign. Even though I'd like to think that Taurus is kind of a watery earth sign, and that all the earth signs have the other elements mixed in. So Taurus would be the water earth sign, Virgo would be the air earth sign, being ruled by Mercury, and Capricorn being the fire earth sign, having the desire, ambition to climb up that mountain to success. And if you have Mars in Capricorn where it's exalted, then you're very, very ambitious and driven and very hardworking as well. So that's how I like to think of it. So now I'm going to change what I'm doing. And I'm going to be reading this little article about this. This is not personally. I have a video all about the nodes, where I talked about what each of these nodes mean personally and when they last transited. So maybe at some point when we've sort of passed that mark, I may get rid of the dates in that video, just so that it's up to date. I may edit those out, but the past dates when these nodes transited, and I talked about what this placement meant. And I also have a separate video on what the South Node in Taurus, North Node Scorpio means personally, so you can watch that, and I will be sure to link to those things below in the description. But I'm going to read to you this so that you can get a taste of what what the invitation was for people at this time. So that you can understand, even though it is not the exact nodes which there are now, even though it's different, again, as I said, it's not put this thing in one box, put this thing in the other box. And so I'm sure there's very valuable things to gain from this, of what happened then and what is happening now astrologically. And if you're watching this in the middle of July, there is going to be, at the end of July on the 31st, a triple conjunction between Mars, Uranus, and the North Node in Taurus, which is super duper rare, and it is exciting and life-changing. So I'm going to just go on and get into this. So it says, and I'll put the link to all these things below. So this is just an article off of Ruby Slipper Astrology, the transiting North Node in Scorpio. August 27, 2012 through February the 23rd, somewhere around that point, 2014. Here it goes. Is Scorpio in the spotlight or what? Not only will Saturn be entering the sign. Now, before I go on, bear in mind that this was written way back when astrology wasn't as huge as it is now. And so I am fortunate enough to find this article. So Saturn entering the sign, but so will the transiting North Node. So I'm going to go on. And here is another little experience that may be Scorpionic. Maybe like 6th house Scorpio. Scorpio is like dark stuff. 6th house is health. I remember going into this restaurant. It's kind of like a snack in the afternoon. And I had a cough in that summer. And I remember just saying something. And then all of a sudden I started coughing. And I was very I was just really and I just couldn't stop coughing, and so it was very worrying to me. And so what I remember is that my mom was like, have somebody come here and help. He's having a rough time. And so what I remember is this stranger came up and it was like, you're going to be okay. And one of the things about North Node Scorpio as well as, it's so funny that I came up with this concept at that time, is this thing I called others, which is like this fun little thing I did when I was a kid. But indeed, North Node Scorpio is about sharing and is about being receptive and open to other people's energy, help, attention, all those things as well. And not, being defensive, stubborn, shutting it out. And then now, with the South Node Scorpio, you could just take that to the other extreme, which is being overpowered and being overwhelmed and being disempowered and needing to find your power. And so that's the North Node in Taurus. But so anyway, I'm going to continue reading. The North and South nodes are mathematical points, not planets. Here's the technical stuff if you want to know how they're calculated. They describe past life situations that color habits. South node in this life and the path that you were to take to evolve forward and reach your full potential, which is the North node. So it says they'll be moving from 0 degrees Sag North node, Sagittarius North node, 0 degrees Gemini South node, because that's where they were at that time, to 29 degrees Scorpio. The nodes always move retrograde backwards. They always start in at that 29 degree and then go all the way back to 0 degrees. And retrograde, the rewards, including reflect, is a time of reflection, and these nodes are feminine and reflective. To 29 degrees Scorpio, North node, and 29 degrees Taurus, South node. So these nodes travel together. They travel, they are, holding hands together, traveling opposite. So they're always opposite. So, and I also have another video I'll link to, a lecture video on astrology compatibility by the astrologer Colin Bedell, where he explains the Taurus-Scorpio polarity and what that means in relationships. So it says, initiating and developing unfamiliar but progressive talent situations, relationships will be triggered by the North Node's transit of whatever house has Scorpio in your chart. So, Scorpio, dealing with Scorpio, expect to push or be pushed through limits to get to these new energies. You have to go deeper and be authentic. It will be your evolutionary prompt. And so it goes on. Okay, so then it says, I'm going to skip. Moving past ingrained, stagnant behaviors. Because the downside of Taurus is, oh, everything's so good, I'm just going to stay the way it is. Laziness. Not really moving forward. So yeah, moving past stagnant behaviors is the theme of the transiting South Node. This will be directly up. Now, the South Node, North Node is always where the eclipses occur. Just to throw that in there. So this will be directly opposite the transiting North Node. For whatever is being initiated in your Scorpio house, there will be a corresponding situation, behavior in the opposite house you need to break away from. It will involve Taurus energy, so think about moving beyond your comfort zone and familiar routines. Traveling is also a wonderful thing. Taking any kind of risk, putting on the brave face, and taking chances, making mistakes. You live and you learn. Not to live small. And South Node is already about staying small. North Node's all about stretching beyond. And so that nodal position really, really contributes to that greatly. So yeah, because Taurus is all about the familiar. Your familiar environment. So in a nutshell, and also, I think the myth of Pluto, that's a wonderful thing to study when the North and South Node are transiting during these two signs, especially this video here, because, that myth where there was a crack in the earth and, the girl went down into the underworld and stayed there, became queen of the underworld, and then half the year she was in the underworld, the other half of the year she was up in the overworld during springtime. So that's the balance going on here, versus the underworld and the overworld. Heaven and Armageddon. So, in a nutshell, the transiting nodes are evolutionary triggers that are colored by the sun and this nodal transit will involve launching yourself from cautious Taurus to fearless Scorpio. The nodes will transit Scorpio, Taurus until February 2014, then they will move into Libra, Aries, so they always move backwards. And in Vedic astrology, the nodes are ahead or backwards where they are now. So currently the North Node is in Aries right now. In Vedic astrology, will be at the end of the month, in July, on July 31st, if you're watching this at this time when I'm filming, making this video, the South Node in Libra. So, yeah. So, that is, and if you look at the dates of these, things here, yeah, okay. So thank you very, very much for listening. Please comment, share, subscribe, like, and hit the bell to get notified about future videos.